Hello everybody and welcome to another mystery box function challenge. In the purple mystery box there is some math and your challenge is to figure out what it is. Use the link in the description to try this out on your own, and when you've got an idea, come on back and see if we get the same thing. All right, I'm going to start with a 0. Okay, so 0 gives me -4. How about a 1? And let's see, that looks like a non-repeating decimal. So maybe trig, maybe a square root possibly. Let's put in a 2. Another non-repeating. Interesting curve. How about a 3? Still going up here, although the slope of the curve is changing. It looks like it's inflected in a different way. So I'm definitely thinking trig now. Let's go a little further out. Okay, and now we're heading back down again. Let's put in a couple of trig values. Let's put in 3.14, an approximation for pi. And that's putting me basically at 4. And let's put in something close to pi over 2, so maybe a 1.6. And that's really close to 0. All right. So I think we've got the information we need here. One of the things I'm noticing is the amplitude of this is bigger than just the basic trig function. So it goes up to 4 and down to -4. So I think we've got a multiplier of 4 on this thing. So I'm going to make a note of that. And then let's think about these trig functions. Remember, with the sine and the cosine, and it's one of those because it's got that wave form, we are entering an angle, and then we're looking at where that the line that makes that angle intersects, and the x-axis, sorry, the x-coordinate gives you the cosine, and the y gives you the sine. Here at 0, we'd be at 1, 0. So this would be sine, and this would be this would be cosine for the x, and sine. So sine would be 0. At 0, we're at -4, which is, well, it's not the largest value, it's the smallest value this thing can have. So I'm thinking cosine, because it's not at its midpoint. That's what you'd get with sine. For the sine of 0 is 0. I think maybe we have a negative cosine going on here. So our multiplier maybe is a -4. So let's put that in there. And let's see, is that going to be it maybe? I think that might be it. So nothing else is happening here. So let's just think about that. Let's look at the value that we get here at pi. So at pi, which is all the way over here, the cosine is going to be -1, because that's the point -1, 0. So our cosine is going to be -1. So the cosine of pi is -1. So we'd have -1 times a -4, and that would be a +4. And that's what we get here at pi. At pi over 2, the cosine is going to be 0. So this whole thing will evaluate to 0. And if we look at our approximation for pi over 2, we're very, very close to 0. So I think we've got this. This is just the cosine of x, but with a negative multiplier, a -4. Let's go ahead and take a look at that and see if we're right. Yeah, -4 times the cosine of x, and we can graph that as well. That typical waveform just going up and down quite a bit because of that multiplier, and it's the cosine graph just sort of reflected over the x-axis. Instead of starting at its high point, it starts at its low point. Well, how did that go for you? Were you thinking trig? Let me know. Thanks, everybody.